Hi, this morning I'm with Syd Howell, who is a social tree climber, and he's actually hanging up a tree somewhere in Hampshire. Hello, Syd.
Hello, Jill. Hello, everyone. I am up
Where
a
are you
tree.
hanging?
I'm in River Hamble Country Park at an activity centre within the park, which actually part of the lockdown has been mothballed. So I have the whole place to myself, and it's just gorgeous. It's
Must
nice
be
and quiet. You can
wonderful.
hear the birds. Yeah, it is. It's lovely.
Well,
It's,
we both started with Radi and Create, didn't we? We both did
we did.
a course. When did you
Yep.
start?
I'm trying to remember. I always rack my brains, but I think it was only last year, and I think it was early last year. So I really should look that date up. But fairly recently, basically, it's all happened very quickly and very effectively. It's a fantastic course. Yeah.
So tell me about your business.
Okay, so social tree climbers facilitate is the word everyone seems to use. Tree climbing, recreational tree climbing with ropes and harnesses and all the appropriate safety gear. We visually assess trees, and then we rig climbing systems in them, and then we show people how to use them properly and safely. So all they really have to do is enjoy themselves and enjoy the surroundings, and they don't have to worry too much about knowing that what they're doing is safe and correct. We also facilitate canopy camping. I have some SkyPod tree tents, which we can suspend pretty much anywhere in a tree or between trees, and then set up the climbing systems so that you can access those tents and you can spend the night or just hang out in the day in them up in the canopy. They're very comfortable to sort of lounge around in. Think of anything to do with trees, we can set it up and let you enjoy it. Yeah.
So you could spend your honeymoon up in a tree?
Absolutely. You'd be very welcome to do that. I actually now have quite a jazzy little winch, which will lift up to, I think, 500 kilograms as a deadlift. Okay. So what we're able to do is get the SkyPods right down at ground level, so you can sit in them. Quite literally, that's all you have to do is sit down, and then you could be lifted up into the canopy and lowered back down again. So you don't actually need to climb. If people are of different abilities or just want a really relaxing time, I can even lift you into the trees now. So yeah, honeymooners would be very welcome. Sorry?
What about going to the toilet? Do you have to come up and down each time?
That is always best done in the traditional manner, yes. I appreciate that may seem like a lot of work, but I would recommend coming to the ground, taking a little break, and then going back into the canopy once you're more comfortable. Comfort breaks are best done in the usual way.
Yes. Oh, okay. So you just don't pee out the tent then?
I mean, I'm not saying it hasn't been done, but I have to, toe the line and say it's best done on the ground. Yes.
So how did you come about this? How did you come about starting this business?
Gosh, well, it all started because I wanted to build an earth-sheltered, timber-framed home. And I knew I would have to learn to use a chainsaw to harvest the timber from trees and woodland to build my timber frame home. And luckily, the chap who taught me how to use a chainsaw was also an aerial arborist. So he was a tree climber who cared for trees, and he taught me to climb. He said there's a lot more to trees than chopping them down. I'd previously worked in television production and lots of other fun jobs, but always loved being outdoors. And then the first time I climbed a tree, I was hooked. It was just such fun, and it's all built from there. That was back in, I think, 2008, and I haven't stopped climbing. And my obsession with the climbing equipment.
So what do your family think of what you do?
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah.
It's yeah. They think it's a lot of. I come here with I actually met my partner. Our first date was up a tree. I said, you know, we could go for a drink, or we could go for a coffee, or you can meet me at these coordinates in some woodlands, and I'll show you what I enjoy doing for fun. And
She came
being this,
along, my goodness.
being the sort of person she is, yeah, she came along and we had a whale of a time. We sat up a tree for most of the day, had a picnic, and she brought lemon drizzle cake, and it was
Oh,
absolutely delicious. And so that sealed the deal for the second date for sure.
oh, how
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, I have one brother. He's not so great with heights, but he enjoys watching. And his family have all had a climb as well, so they enjoy it.
Yeah. So do you think it's a
Yeah.
great thing for mental health then? Would you say, especially at the moment when we're all feeling, I know myself, I'm feeling very anxious and anxiety. Do you think it's really good for the brain?
I think it's one of the best things I've ever done for myself. There are many layers to this, and I think a lot of it is even happening unconsciously. You just start to feel better. There's an awful lot of research and kind of explanations of how just being out in open green spaces and looking and being amongst trees is very beneficial for you mentally and physically. But actually climbing them, even more so, I think it just exponentially multiplies the benefits. There's the very experience of only being in the here and now, and
So really, that is your office there, isn't it?
very much so, yes. My big, green, lovely office.
You're
Yeah,
very lucky, aren't you, to have that as your office to play in?
I am extremely lucky, yes. I get to climb the trees and just watch the seasons change here. It's just lovely. It's business in just offering kind of singles tree climbing days where people can just come in and meet new people and make friends.
So is it any age? You know, could
Any age, absolutely any age. I have harnesses that will cinch down for really teeny tiny people, and they obviously, very small people tend not to be able to operate the climbing gear.
uh-huh.
So we usually control the height they can go to, the climbing supervisors, but we'll gladly lift them up and lower them down to wherever they want to be. And it's a lot of fun watching little people kind of shouting they want to go higher or they want to go lower or they want to be swung around. And it's also really nice that maybe mum and dad or grandma or grandpa or aunt or uncle can get up into the tree or be lifted into the tree, and then the kids can go up and join them as well. So everyone's kind of getting together up there. So any age, if the harness fits, as long as we can make a sensible plan to do it safely, yeah, pretty much anyone. It just needs a bit of planning. Very accessible.
So as a child, were you climbing trees?
I think so. I've only really got one memory involving tree climbing as a child, and it was actually falling out of a tree. I don't think I can have been very high up because I didn't get hurt from falling off the branch, but I did fall into a big bed of nettles, and I was stung head to toe. So that I remember because I probably screamed the whole street down. Other than that, I don't remember many tree climbing memories, strangely. It wasn't until a grown man that I really got into it.
So what was your profession before you branched out into tree climbing?
Um, I've actually done all kinds of things. I was an inquiry agent, so I guess you'd call it a private detective for a few years, not long out of school. I worked at a brewery. I worked in television production. So yeah, I've done all kinds of interesting and unusual jobs. I was actually working as a proofreader and editor when I saw some tree surgeons who were dismantling a tree. They were climbing around it and cutting pieces off of it. And I thought that actually looks like fun. And it wasn't long after that, I decided I wanted to build a timber framed and earth sheltered house and learn to use a chainsaw in order to harvest the timber. And very luckily, the chap who taught me how to use a saw cared for trees. He was an aerial arborist, so he was a tree climber for tree care purposes. And he taught me to climb, and I've never looked back. So a strange segue, but it fits very well for me now.
Yeah, yeah. What is your guilty pleasure? I know you love your tree climbing.
I do.
But what would you say was your guilty pleasure?
I really like a good cigar.
Oh.
A decent Cuban cigar. I have a Chesterfield sofa that I like to rig actually up in the trees. A tree, and you feel like you're sitting on a couch, but you're really up in the canopy. And to sit up there with my feet up on the couch, watching the world go by and enjoying a good cigar,
and a strawberry daiquiri.
That'll do me. Yes, a Negroni and a cigar, and that'll do me nicely. But again, it's so much nicer if it's shared with others. I've had all kinds of great kind of outdoor and tree experiences, whether on my own in far-flung corners of the world, or anywhere, even in the UK. But if I ever go home and relay it to people, it's never the same as if there was someone there with you. It amplifies the experience enormously. So what I really enjoy is showing others, the people who've never climbed a tree before with ropes and harnesses, the feeling, the buzz you get from showing them how, when they really take it on and just start doing it autonomously. You know, they get how the systems work, and you see them starting to think creatively about how they want to climb a tree. And you know you played some small part only in introducing them to that. It's a real kick to see them then go on from there to do their own things, as I know I did from when I first learned the basic techniques. So yeah, that's a real buzz too.
I suppose you could have all types of activities. You could have hen parties, stag parties, birthday parties.
Absolutely. A reason, I mean, pick a reason to get together with friends, and you could stage that somewhere in and around trees. There are some great stories from all over the world where some trees in kind of the urban environment were threatened with being removed because people perceived them to be dangerous or in the wrong place, or some sort of nuisance. Perhaps the birds that sat in them were ruining the paint on the cars below, and other sort of awkward reasons that would suggest perhaps park your car somewhere else instead of remove the tree. And arborists in those communities, they did something very clever. They set up a microbrewery at the base of the tree, and when the beer was ready, they had a street party and drank the beer in celebration of that tree. And what a great way to make people think of and associate something completely different with that tree in their community. It's where they had that truly unique party where they all drank beer that was of that tree and only that place. And I really like those ideas. I think we could do that a lot more and help people see these things that obviously we rely on them for every breath we take. Couldn't we love them a lot more if we just interacted with them better? I want to brew beer up in a tree, so it's never touched the ground. Wouldn't that be great?
Well, you and I are part of a business group, aren't we, with Radio Create?
Yes, we are.
Have we not got someone who brews beer? I don't know if we do.
I've got a feeling it did come up, and I got really interested. Right, I met some fellas who either were arborists or tree climbers who had worked in. I actually worked for Bass Brewers many years ago.
Oh, did you?
I did their cellar management training, so you could learn a little bit about cask conditioned ales and things. Probably ties in with my love of cocktail hour, but wouldn't it be fantastic to just make, I need to speak to maybe somebody over in the New Forest. There are some great breweries over that way, and get something going, because It's such fun. Yeah, wouldn't it be great if someone in the group was, though?
Drinking up a tree, though, you've got that problem of wanting a wee.
Yeah, one does follow the other. I'd say, first of all, you shouldn't drink much. You should drink very responsibly while you're in a rope and harness. So it's more just the taste, really.
Right, okay.
And then the other should be done in the usual manner.
Right.
Yes. Come to the ground and take a comfort break, and then decide whether you want to go back up again.
So no peeing over the side then.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it hasn't been done, but it shouldn't be done.
I'm from a sailing background, and a lot of the guys will pee in their wetsuits.
Yes, I think that's probably a thing. And funnily enough, I think tree climbers have learned an awful lot from the sailing world in other ways. I'm not saying we'll pee in our wetsuits, but we have learned a lot about rigging and knots and ropes and trees. A lot of boats are made from and so forth. So the dots do join up there between sailing, but maybe not all that way.
No, so you're not stumped then. You're not stumped in there at all. No.
No.
And I hope you don't log off.
Oh, well, yeah. If my phone holds out, we'll be fine. My phone might log off. I might decide to.
So what are your plans for the future then? What do you see in the future? How do you...
That's a really great question. You'll have to stop me if I go on too long on this, because I've always got something to say about it. I would really like to make tree climbing an ordinary, everyday outdoor activity for at least the whole country, if not the whole world. At the moment, it is practiced all over the world. There are international umbrella organizations, but I would like to get it recognized and have its own governance, a national governing body, and build up enough of a group of people nationwide to try and get it declared a sport in its own right. At the moment, we rely on arboriculture best practice, so tree surgery best practice for climbing safety regulations. And those obviously are tied in with safety when cutting trees and work positioning. So less so to do with recreational activity where you're just there for fun. And I think it would be really nice to be able to have our own governance where we decide on our own safety standards and can start really building it as an outdoor activity for everyone, for children of all ages, as I like to say. So I am told that sorry, go on.
Is it an expensive hobby?
It can be. If you're smart and you wait for the sales, then you can put together a climbing kit for a few £100. You really only need a piece of rope and a harness, and you can make up a climbing kit with the correct know-how. It can be incredibly gear intensive. It's really great if you're a gear junkie like I am. But it's open-ended. It's sky's the limit when it comes to spending for the equipment, especially if you run a business where you can supervise up to 16 climbers at a time with 2 supervisors. That gets really spendy. So there's a big initial outlay, but it doesn't have to be expensive. You can still get to the top of a tree with just a piece of rope, a carabiner, and a good harness, and of course, a helmet, just in case.
You have climbing walls around the country. There's lots of places you can go. Is it similar?
Yes and no. There are aspects of it. Once you get up into the canopy and you can start using the branches of the tree to climb so that your rope is only really there as a backup, then that's a similarity to using climbing holds where you're belayed, as they say, where another person on the ground has the tail of your rope and can catch you if you slip. With tree climbing, you self-belay. So you tend your own belay system. So that part is very different. And I think the the big difference I'm keen to highlight is you aren't the only living thing in the equation when you're tree climbing. With a climbing wall or with abseiling or with industrial climbing, you're either on an aqueduct or a viaduct or a skyscraper, or a climbing wall that someone's built, or even some beautiful granite out there in the Peak District or down in Dorset or what have you. None of that's alive, whereas a tree is a big, beautiful living thing, and it is cradling you, it's supporting you. One of the first people I showed how to tree climb, she had a profound experience where she was scared, but at the same time reassured by the living thing that was holding her up. So she was scared to be high up, but reassured that she was in a living thing at height, and that she said it was like riding on the back of a whale. And I really liked that analogy. That stayed with me. It's a kind of a beautiful thing. And all the more so when, if there's a little breeze in the air like there is today, you sit in that tree and you can feel it swaying and oscillating, because trees don't just go back and forth. They twist in the wind as they dissipate all that energy out through the canopy. And to be in a tree and feeling that, then you know you're in a living thing. You're not just hanging on to a piece of rock for dear life. It's a very different feeling. There is a reassurance there that I don't get from other types of climbing.
Yeah. So do you talk to trees?
All the time.
Yeah.
I won't climb one without asking if it doesn't mind if we climb it. And you don't always get a straight answer, but by the time you go home afterwards, you get a feeling of whether that tree wanted to be climbed or not, because there's a kind of a series of actions of getting your ropes into the top of the tree to climb it. And things can go wrong. You can have the best day that just everything flows, that you get your throw line up into the tree, you get a really great anchor, the ropes go in, and the next thing you know, you're at the top of the tree within half an hour. You know that tree wanted to be climbed. And there are other times where things get stuck, they get tangled, they get snagged. You have to think again and come up with plans to work around the problems. Those are the days I think the trees don't want to be climbed.
Really?
So yeah, you do get answers.
That sounds very magical. That sounds very... You're a bit of a romantic, aren't you, I reckon?
Maybe, yeah. I hope so.
So you have a favourite tree to climb?
All of them. This is the you can climb the same tree 2 days on the trot with exactly the same anchor point, in the same, what you think is the same state of mind and so on, and you will always learn something. You will either learn about the tree, its surroundings, or something about yourself. So you can repeat the experiment as scientifically as you want with all the same conditions, but something will be different. And whether that's you or the tree, who knows? But you always learn something. And so, I love the teeny tiny trees you have to climb sometimes just for work, and the great big majestic ones you climb for adventure. They're all just wonderful. Here, there's a sweet chestnut I like that I'm just standing next to now. We call it Chewbacca because it's tall and hairy. And I really like the view from the top of Chewbacca, because you can see a fair bit of Hampshire from up there, and it's pretty glorious. Just across the meadow here, there are 4 oak trees in a row that a group of scouts named the 4 Bobs. So it's Bob 1 through 4. And so I think one of them's Bob Mortimer. There's another one that's Bob Monkhouse. I forget the 3rd Bob, and the 4th one, because we couldn't think of anything. It's called What About Bob? And we love to climb in those 4 trees. I put the tents in there. We move from one tree to another. That's another fantastic aspect of, you don't just go up and down with tree climbing. You can treeverse from tree to tree. And that involves some really cool gear, like hooks on ropes that you can throw into the branches. That's great fun. But as for a favorite, I can't say it loud, because if the other trees hear, they won't like it.
I love it. That's so cool.
I love them all equally.
As adults, we don't have enough fun in our lives. I went to a group the other day, and I was actually asked, what do you do for fun? What's fun? And we stop having fun for some reason, and I'm not really sure why. And what you're doing does actually sound like fun.
It is. You get, I mean, yeah, you bang on. It's exactly what it is. Thank you, Jill, for putting it so simply. It is just the most fun you can have with your clothes on. It's just terrific because it's outside, because it's free, because there's no fun police standing there. As long as you observe a few, basic safety rules, there are some basics where you can tie in how to avoid swinging too kind of dangerously in any given direction. Once you do that part, you start using those rules, the laws of physics and the biology of the tree. You use them just for your own adventure, your own there are uncertain outcomes. Will we get up this tree today? And that to me is the very definition. There's a little bit of danger that you have to mitigate, and you don't know it's all going to go okay, and then it does, and sharing it with friends. And it doesn't get any better than that to me.
I think for
it
me,
is a lot of fun.
My fear would be, I'm too fat. How am I ever going? I'm old and I'm fat. How am I ever going to get up a tree? Well,
I can completely understand why you might think that without kind of knowing how it's done.
No, Syd, that was the wrong answer.
Oh, you're not old.
The right
and you're
answer
not fat.
is you're not fat, Jill.
No, no, sorry, I didn't. That's
No,
that went
on.
without. That went without saying, Jill. I thought that was just the setup. If you can climb the stairs, you can climb a tree.
Okay.
We have some little gadgets that you can strap on to your feet that allow you to push yourself up the rope with your leg muscles. So instead of using your arms like you feel like you're trying to do kind of gymnasium stuff, you're walking up the rope. That's what it comes down to. And it's all completely under your own steam. So if you want to stop and take a break every 2 feet, you can. And that's actually why anyone does this. It's kind of the big secret is it's just the biggest rope swing you've ever been on in your life, and you're in control of it. So as soon as your feet leave the ground, you're committing to kind of being on a rope and in a tree. You can just muck about all you want. And if you only go 2 feet in the air that day, that's absolutely fine by everyone, because that's all you want to do. So it's about you getting where you want to be. The next day, you might only go a foot, you might go 20 feet. Most people get a couple of feet off the ground, and by then they start to feel the rhythm of how to climb the rope. And the next thing they know, they're at 20 feet before they've even thought about it. So
it really does sound amazing. You've really sold me on this.
Thank you. I mean, get in the car, come on down here now, and we'll do it. I have all the gear, we're ready. It's obviously we have this unusual lockdown business to deal with.
And it's quite windy today as well.
Yes, it is breezy, which to me, that's a good thing, but it's not always ideal for the first experience. No. You want certain things to feel how you want them to feel, not how they are.
I think I'll wait for a not so windy day.
You bet. No problem, I'll be here.
Anyway, it's lovely chatting to you.
And to you.
I'm going to log off now.
Okay, well,
I'm trying to think of any other
You have to. That's the best way to close that one down, isn't it? Definitely. The other one.
Yourself up.
Say again.
You go and spruce yourself up.
Just remember, you can't say trees without smiling. Trees.
Lovely. Take care, Syd.
You too, Jill.